All right, let's talk about courage. You've sent us some fascinating stuff to dive into today.
Yeah, lots to unpack here.
Definitely. We're going deep into how to unlock that courage that's already inside you. And we'll see how self-compassion and vulnerability play a huge part in all of this.
Interesting how those tie together.
It is. Get ready for some aha moments, folks. This stuff is powerful.
We usually think of courage as like facing down some big challenge, right?
Like confronting something head on.
But the source material we're looking at, it kind of flips that on its head.
Oh, how so?
It's more about an inner journey. It's about facing those internal things,
Makes sense.
those fears and habits and all the stuff we're not sure about.
Yeah.
The source calls it spiritual courage. It's a great way to put it, I think.
Spiritual courage. Huh, I like that.
Yeah, it's not about being some superhero,
No, it feels more accessible.
It is. It's about finding the strength that's already there inside you.
Like it's something everyone has.
Exactly. The source even says it's like our birthright.
Wow.
Not something we got to earn, but something we uncover.
Okay, so if we've got this courage inside us, what's holding us back from using it?
Well, the source points to something we all know too well.
What's that?
Fear. Good old-fashioned fear.
I knew it. Fear of what?
All kinds. Fear of failing, fear of what people think, fear of pain, you name it.
Yeah.
They kind of build up over time like walls between us and that strength we have.
Walls of fear. That's a pretty intense image.
It is. But the thing is, those walls aren't made of, like, concrete.
That's a good point.
They're built from our thoughts and experiences.
So we can break them down.
Exactly. If we change our mindset, change how we approach things, those walls can come down.
Okay, I'm ready. How do we do it? What tools do we have?
Well, the source talks a lot about mindfulness and positive affirmation.
Oh, yeah, those are good ones. And they work together, right?
They do. They really complement each other. Mindfulness first.
Yeah.
It's all about noticing those thoughts and feelings.
But not getting caught up in them.
Right. We observe them without judging them, like they're clouds passing by.
You just watch them go.
Exactly. You don't try to control them, you just let them be.
So how do we apply that to, say, fear of public speaking? Lots of people struggle with that.
Okay, picture this. You're about to give a presentation, heart's pounding, palms are sweaty.
I know that feeling.
Instead of panicking, you just notice those feelings. Don't label them as bad.
Okay, I'm feeling anxious.
Yeah, and that's okay. It's normal. Just a physical sensation.
Interesting.
By creating that space between you and the fear, it loses its power over you.
So it's about shifting how we relate to fear.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's where positive affirmations come in.
Right, those are powerful. But sometimes they feel a little, I don't know, cheesy.
Yeah, I hear you.
Like just repeating, I am brave over and over doesn't necessarily make it true.
The source really stresses that it's about feeling it.
Oh, like embodying the feeling.
Yes. Not just saying words like a robot.
That makes more sense. How do we actually do that, though?
They suggest visualizing yourself successfully navigating a situation you're afraid of.
So with public speaking, imagine myself giving an amazing speech, feeling confident,
Yes. Really try to feel those emotions as you picture it.
like a mental rehearsal for courage.
Exactly. And with both these tools, the key is consistency.
So it's about building new habits of mind.
Exactly. And this leads us to a really fascinating connection, the link between courage and self-compassion.
Oh, now that's an interesting one.
I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Would you be more likely to take a risk if you knew you had support even if things went wrong?
Absolutely. Like knowing you have your own back no matter what gives you that extra boost.
That's it. And the source ties this directly to courage.
So how does it explain that connection?
It says self-compassion is not weakness, but a source of strength.
Huh, that's a different way to look at it.
Think about it. If we beat ourselves up for every mistake, it erodes our confidence.
Yeah, it's like we're carrying a ton of baggage.
Exactly. Self-compassion is like having a supportive inner voice that says, hey, it's okay, get up, try again.
I love that. It's like fuel for our courage.
That's a great way to put it. But how do we actually practice self-compassion?
Right. It's easy to say, but harder to do.
Well, the source gives us some practical exercises to try.
I'm all about practical. Let's hear them.
So one of the exercises they suggest is called a self-compassion break.
Okay, I like the sound of that already.
It's pretty simple, but really effective whenever you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or, beating yourself up.
Yeah, we've all been there.
You just pause for a minute and acknowledge what you're going through.
There's like wallowing in it, right?
No, more like just recognizing it.
Hey, this is tough right now. I'm feeling this kind of thing.
Exactly. And then you remind yourself that, hey, everyone struggles sometimes.
Oh, that's good. It's so easy to feel like you're the only one.
Everyone makes mistakes, feels pain. It's all part of being human.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
Right. And then the last part is to offer yourself some kindness.
Ooh, I like that.
Think about what you'd say to a friend in the same situation
Yeah, good point.
and offer yourself those same words of comfort and support.
Like giving yourself a mental hug.
Exactly.
I love it. What about the second exercise, the letter writing one?
Ah, yes. This one is about shifting perspective from judging yourself to being more compassionate.
Interesting.
So the source says, imagine you have a friend who's just incredibly understanding and supportive.
Like they always see the best in you.
Yes, someone
Wow.
who sees your worth even when you're struggling.
I'm lucky to have a few friends like that.
So imagine this friend is writing you a letter about whatever you're being hard on yourself about.
Okay.
What would they say? How would they encourage you?
I think they'd tell me that I'm doing the best I can, that everyone makes mistakes, that it's okay to not be perfect all the time.
Yes.
They'd probably remind me of my strengths and times I've overcome challenges in the past.
Exactly. And even just writing this imaginary letter, it can really help cultivate self-compassion.
It's like getting outside your own head for a minute.
Right. You get to experience that understanding and support from a different perspective.
This makes me realize how much harder we are on ourselves than we'd ever be on a friend.
It's true. We have this double standard, and the source challenges us to let go of that.
Yeah, we deserve the same kindness we give others.
Exactly. And self-compassion isn't about lowering our standards. It's about creating the space to grow.
It's about being on our own team, supporting ourselves.
Exactly. And that leads us to another big piece of unlocking courage, one that might seem counterintuitive.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Really, isn't that kind of the opposite of courage?
That's what we're often told, that we need to be strong and confident all the time.
Yeah, like vulnerability is a weakness.
But the source, and a lot of research actually, says that's not true.
Huh, okay, I'm listening.
True vulnerability, when we embrace it authentically, can be a huge source of strength.
I'm not sure I follow. How does being vulnerable make us more courageous?
Think of it this way. Being vulnerable means letting ourselves be seen with all our imperfections.
Like taking off a mask, showing our true selves.
Exactly. And that takes a lot of courage.
I see what you mean. If we're always hiding our flaws, we're trapped in this fear of being exposed.
Yes. And that keeps us from real connection, authenticity, even creativity.
Wow, that's powerful.
The source quotes Brené Brown here, who says vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change.
That's a great quote.
When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open up to new possibilities.
Okay, you've convinced me that vulnerability is important, but how do we actually become more vulnerable? It feels kind of scary.
That's a great question. And the source gives us some practical steps to take. It starts with knowing ourselves, our boundaries, what feels safe to share.
So it's not like we have to tell everyone our deepest secrets right away.
No, not at all. It's about being mindful and intentional.
Okay, that makes sense. What else does the source say?
Start small. We don't have to make big gestures of vulnerability right off the bat.
Small steps.
Right. Maybe sharing a personal story with a close friend, or speaking up in a meeting, or asking for help when you need it.
Just dipping our toes in the water of vulnerability.
Exactly. And as we gain confidence, we can stretch our comfort zone further.
Makes sense.
The source also talks about accepting our feelings. When we're being vulnerable, it's natural to feel nervous or scared.
Oh, definitely. My heart always races when I'm about to share something personal.
That's normal. The key is to just acknowledge those feelings without judging them.
Like, okay, I'm feeling anxious, and that's okay.
Exactly. Befriend your discomfort instead of fighting it.
I like that. And we don't have to do this alone, right?
Right. The source encourages seeking feedback from people we trust.
That's a good point. It's like having a vulnerability support system.
I love that. And finally, remember, building vulnerability is like building any muscle. It takes practice and pushing ourselves a little.
Stepping outside our comfort zone.
Exactly. So what's one small step you can think of that would challenge you to be a little more vulnerable this week?
That's a good question. I think I'll try being more open about my creative process with my colleagues. I usually keep things to myself until they're perfect, but maybe sharing earlier could lead to some great feedback and collaboration.
That's a fantastic idea.
What about you? Any vulnerability challenges on your horizon?
Yeah, that's a great one. I love it. Sharing those early stages can be so valuable. For me, I think I'm going to try being more open about work-life balance stuff.
Oh, interesting.
I kind of put on this front of having it all figured out.
Do we all?
But really, I'm still figuring it out, just like everybody else.
That makes you more relatable, I think. Makes me think about vulnerability in leadership. Seems kind of counterintuitive, right?
Mm.
Aren't leaders supposed to be like the strong ones with all the answers?
Yeah, that's the classic image, isn't it? But the source material we're looking at, and a lot of research actually, says vulnerability is a key part of good leadership. Think about the leaders you really admire, the ones who inspire you. They're probably not the ones who pretend to be perfect, right?
Yeah, the ones who feel authentic, who aren't afraid to be human.
Exactly. When leaders are vulnerable, it creates a safe space for everyone else.
Like people feel like they can take risks, share ideas, even admit when they need help.
Yeah, exactly. It builds trust and connection, which ultimately leads to better results.
So it's not about being perfect. It's about being real and creating a space for others to be real too.
Absolutely. And this ties back to that ripple effect we talked about earlier.
Oh, right. How our actions can inspire others.
When leaders model vulnerability, it gives others permission to do the same, creates a chain reaction of courage.
I love that. It's like vulnerability is contagious in a good way.
Exactly. This whole conversation has been amazing. It really highlights how courage isn't always about these huge, dramatic actions.
It's about those small, everyday choices.
Showing up as ourselves, embracing our imperfections, connecting with people on a real level.
Absolutely. It's a journey, not a destination.
So true. And it's a journey with all sorts of twists and turns and unexpected moments. Before we wrap up, is there one last thought you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. We've all got this incredible courage inside us, just waiting to be unleashed.
Absolutely.
And these tools we've talked about, mindfulness, affirmations, self-compassion, vulnerability, they're like keys that unlock that potential.
Beautifully said.
And remember, our vulnerability can inspire courage in others. That's a pretty amazing thought to end on.
It really is. Thanks for diving deep into this with me.
It's been a pleasure. And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep embracing the courage within you. You got this.